Real women.
Real talk.
Real messy.
This is Messy Midlife. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Messy Midlife. Ladies, I have missed you. I've missed you guys so much. So the people who are just listening to us, it's only been a week, right? But for us, it's actually been a little while since we've talked because we've had so many things come up. I've missed you guys so much. And I've been so many times that I was just like, when do I get to talk to these women again? There's so many things that have been swirling in my head. I don't even know where I can start. I'm hoping you guys have something more formulated than me because my brain has been a chaotic whirl of all of the things, like everything, everywhere, all at once, which somebody told me I need to watch yesterday. Karen,
Yes.
I know you told me I needed to watch it. I need to add that. I need to write it down somewhere so I remember.
That is what it has felt like. Everything, everywhere, all at once, for sure. And as soon as I jumped on, I saw your faces. I was like, oh, this feels so good. Just that alone. There's so much to catch up on that I don't even know where to begin. I have lots to talk about. It's just emotional. Blah. I just missed you guys so much.
That's why we have to talk more often. I've been thinking about a lot of things. I was at my niece's birthday party yesterday, her beach birthday party, and I was talking to my sister-in-law, and we were talking about the upcoming, I think the moon was last night, right? The red moon, the blood moon, and talking about transformation and change and shifting and letting go. And I started thinking a lot about being a mom and how hard it is to balance being an authority figure, showing understanding, putting the right boundaries into place. And I think for me, like as like a kid that grew up with so many rules and boundaries and ways of doing things, it's like, how far do I let go of those things while still bringing in the things that are important and finding that balance? And like, I just was thinking a lot about that. I mean, I guess honestly, like in the last month or so, I mean, you guys know it was my mom's 80th birthday, like had a big, huge weekend with all the family and my sisters and bringing my daughter into that dynamic. And so I've just been thinking about it a lot. Like where is the balance? I've always wanted to have like more of a friend as a mom. And so sometimes I question myself if I'm too much of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Last night I was like, okay, screens off, bedtime, school tomorrow. And she doesn't know I can look in her window from the backyard and I see her on her screen after she said, okay, good night, I'm going to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked in and I was like, hey, you know, this is the rule. You're not being honest right now.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I'm floundering with that balance right now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at 13, being that person that she will come to and talk to about things and be honest, but then also having the rules in place that are respected.
Yeah.
I never had that as a kid. I never had that, both of those things.
Yeah. From what I have witnessed, I have seen a lot of that from you, where you will have this really bountiful, unconditional love and warmth within these boundaries, which is critical for children. I've read repeatedly and I've heard in so many different ways that children need those guides to feel safe, to be able to push and explore, but know that they are held and contained. And I have witnessed that in your interactions with your daughter.
I think I struggle with it. Part of it, she didn't come into my life until she was a lot older. So a lot of the you have, as a parent, when you have that to your child from birth or a young age, right? You're implementing those things and creating those boundaries. And she didn't have those with me, but she didn't really have those with anybody. So it's just, it's with her, right? She's 13, she's in 8th grade. Trying to give her the autonomy to make those good choices is such a big part of that, right? And like I keep saying, like, so I'm not going to take your iPad away because I'm going to give you an opportunity to show me that I can trust you, that you're going to follow the rules. But at what point do I just say, and I guess I'll be talking to my therapist about this.
Your other therapist. At this stage, we need all of that.
Where do I say, like, where do I say, okay, oh, so right now the iPad's in my room. And after you have done X, Y, and Z, then you can have it.
Mhm.
not going to trust you to do those things as well.
Mhm.
And it's because then end up getting frustrated. Like, well, they're not being done. She's still having access to the things she wants to
Mhm.
have access to. It's so much racing around in my head today about it.
It's hard in so many ways, and, like, I don't know I'm obviously not a parenting expert. I read a lot. I've read a lot of parenting books. I follow parenting people, and so I've read and heard a lot of what Karen just said about, like, needing that children really need that, like, strict they need the guidance, they need the leadership, and the funny thing is I've also read a lot of leadership books, being an employer and having been president of associations and all sorts of things. I always want to improve and get better and grow as a leader. And it's so ridiculous, the overlap. Every leadership book is a parenting book, and every parenting book is a leadership book.
Mm.
And it's the exact same thing about having strength of your convictions, having consistency, setting boundaries, and following through with what you say you're going to do so that there is reasonable expectations from the people that you are leading. And that if you don't lead, if they're pushing back against something, that there's a natural reaction for people that you are leading or for your children to push back against what you're doing to see what they can get away with, what they can do, more so with kids. But in any case, employees, people who like are on a board that you're leading or whatever, like, needing to be consistent with those boundaries. And it's actually like a natural human thing to try to see what they can get away with in some ways so that they can feel confident and safe, as you said, Karen, that you've got it. Which is of course like also like this whole delusion because we don't have it. We're all making it
No,
up as we go too, right? So like we need to
but they
look like
need to
we've got
believe.
it together even if we don't. But the reality is like we have it more together than the person we're leading or we wouldn't be leading them. So even if we don't have all the answers, that's okay. We have to have is more answers than the person that we're leading or more of an understanding or more of a vision and direction. So that's one thing I would say. Lean into anything that you've done as in a leadership role because you've got plenty of those. You've got way more experience as a leader than a parent. I have leaned really hard into natural consequences rather than punishment. And I'm also trying to figure out at what point does the line get crossed that that's no longer effective or will that always be effective? And you're right. I've had the opportunity. I've known my daughter since before she was born. And so, like, I've been able to help figure out where she's at and start instilling these things early. I don't have anybody else's parenting to unwind or to navigate. But what you said with trust, that's what comes up so frequently is I tell her that if I feel like I'm tiptoeing into something that looks more like punishment than just like a natural consequence of what she chose to do, I lean into like the trust thing, right? And so like, especially when it comes to lying or if she told me she was going to do something and she did something different or she's not owning to something that I know she did. And I tell her, when you lied to me, what does that take? And she says, it takes away trust. And I said, and what's the most important thing in the world? And she said, and so she knows trust is the most important thing in the world. And I said, if you lie to me and I can't trust you, that means I can't trust you to go and do these things that I need to know you're going to tell me the truth and make good decisions. So that's really where I just keep leaning into is like to be able to sort of connect some of those things that you might have to strictly take away or like not allow because it's connected to a violation of trust and the importance of trust for being able to have access to things. And like, especially something with a screen, like it's to me, it goes beyond, do you get this thing that you like? It's like, if I can't trust you to tell me the truth about whether you're using a screen right now, can I trust you to tell me the truth about what's happening on that screen? And are you safe? So it's not just about, are you going to bed when you're supposed to? It's like, can I trust you to be safe? Can I trust you to be honest with me about those things?
It's funny that you say like leadership books because the first thing I think of is like dog training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just, I think about, Jen, the dog trainer we both used with Randy when I had a really challenging dog and him just saying, Aliza, head up, shoulders back, chest out, walk with purpose. If you don't know where you're going, your dog's not going to know where you're going. Right. And I feel that way a little bit, a lot actually with a teenager. Right. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I do have to be clear. And I don't want there to be like negative associations with it, which I think is why I shy away from enforcement sometimes But I think I have to like flip the script a little bit and have it be about earning it, where dad just gives you the iPad and then I'm left to manage it. Well, this is what you have to do to earn being able to use it, right? This is like, it's not your punishment that you can't, it's your reward that you can. And maybe framing it like that for her would be a more helpful way of doing it. So like dishes get put in the dishwasher and you get your iPad. That room gets cleaned up and you get your iPad. But those things don't happen, right? You don't get your
Yeah.
iPad till those things happen. And if they don't happen, then the natural consequence, of course, is you don't get it. Right?
Yeah. I think the thing that comes to mind when you say that is I think a lot about need versus want. And we talked to Zephyr about those types of things too. Like what do we need to do versus what do we want to do? And we have to like make sure the things that we need to do get done first before the things that we want to do. Same thing with like how we spend money. Do we need this or do we want it? You're allowed to have things that you want that you don't necessarily need, but we have to make sure we have all of the things we need first. And that includes savings and charity donations or whatever. Those are things we need to do to take care of ourselves and to take care of our fellow humans. And then if you want to get this silly toy that you don't need because you already have 10 of something similar, then maybe, but then let's also think about that too and think about the bigger impacts. So I think a little bit about that. So rather like to me, language is just so important, like how we talk about things. It feels like a little bit of a diversion, but I think they're so tied together. I have to say it first is that I think it's like intuitive eating. And I think about all of the ways that we exist with diet and restriction. And whenever we have something we really want and we completely restrict ourselves from it or say like I have to have all of these other things first, what sort of behaviors do we end up engaging with the thing that we are restricted from that's then given as a reward versus like okay, this is part of human life, it's part of things that we get, and we have to have a good balance of things. So those are all of my thoughts that spin around what you just said. And then one other thing I'm going to just throw out there really quick is the whole concept of the stuff that she has been through. And I know, like, I don't know how much you want to share, and that's up to you at whatever point. But because she came into your life when she was older, like a tween, basically, when you met her, that there's, because of a lot of the stuff that she experienced, she has a lot of things that she probably hasn't actually gone through yet. And so she's probably emotionally and socially younger in a lot of ways, or like things that it's okay to like lean on maybe where Karen, where her son is, who's, just a few years behind, or even some things that maybe where my daughter is, who's like 8 years behind, right? Because she just like when you go through like really big, hard things, you get stuck, right?
She only had access to what was available to her, right? So if there was a limitation in the models, the role models that were available earlier, right, before you arrived, that's also something to consider.
Yeah. And the parenting and the leadership for her before really being about more punishment, anything else. And so I think that's the challenge is why she's so resistant to it. I mean, it's hard. I understand all the reasons why, right? Like
Mhm.
I know why she is who she is, just like I know why I am who I am. But it's like then I still have to work in the framework of a mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah. And it's hard. I loved everything you said, Jen. I loved everything you said. I had my own personal insights about what you said. And I think when we get back to why we're here, it's hard. It's just really, really hard. As effective, as informed, as intuitive as any of us may be, parenting is the absolute, hands down, no questions asked, most difficult job I have ever had in my life. And we all have literally life and death jobs. These are hard jobs that we have had, and parenting is like off the charts, more difficult and complicated
Mhm.
than anything we've ever done professionally.
This is never ending. It's not an hour appointment. Just like it's 24 hours a day.
Well, and
Yeah.
you said too, like, Aliza, I think that maybe a good thing to think about is what you shared at the beginning. You were it's not just about her, right? It's about you, and how much of this is about what you want, which I understand that relationship matters, right? But like, would I have liked to have had a mom that I felt like was my friend when I was growing up? Perhaps. My mom is one of my best friends now. And I think that's what matters. And I think ultimately, as hard as it is, I feel like it's one of those things that we put in the hard work now and we do the uncomfortable things now. And that sets up the framework for adult friendship because our job is to help raise an adult, right?
Yes.
To facilitate them being able to be a fully functioning person that we would like to hang out with and that we trust with our emotions, that we like spending time with. And I don't think that if I was my daughter's friend first, that that will create an adult I'm going to like in 20 years.
Right. The trust
Absolutely. I
piece.
don't like to be her bestie. Like, not like it's not in that sense, but I think I mean in her willingness and openness to talk to me about things.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where, because I didn't have that, I relate that more. Maybe friends is the wrong word, but it's like that the trust that you have, right? Like, I really trust her that she will come to me with anything she needs to talk about, right? And like that's super important to me to have that like open communication.
Yeah. And I think that's you modeling trust for her. I think that's the balance that you wanting that for her to feel safe coming to you is modeling trustworthiness to her. And so there's the balance between the boundaries and all of the things that need to be respected and contain her and what you have to give her. Because if we're too rigid in those boundaries, then she won't feel that you're trustworthy.
But I think that's also about balance. It goes both ways, and maybe that's just the conversation to have, and maybe you already have, Aliza. But it's not just about her trusting you; it's also about you trusting her. And so it has to be a two-way street. And if she trusts you to come and talk about things, that's great. But you also need to be able to trust her for the things you're responsible for with her. And so right now, what I'm hearing is that the trust is going more one direction and that she doesn't understand her responsibility in maintaining that side of the balance too in the relationship.
I mean, you just said it. Like, she doesn't understand her responsibility. I think in general,
Mhm.
like that's our big challenge. It's like, I don't want to do dishes either. I don't want to clean my room every day,
Mhm.
right? But that's a responsibility that we have. Sets us up for being able to do hard things later, right? Is sometimes doing the things that are not your first choice, but have to get done. And so that's the big challenge. It's just the responsibility of just being in a family, living together, what we each do to help make the other person's life a little bit easier too.
Yeah.
One of my friends told me he has a teenage daughter, and he said, "You're going to figure out like being a parent is just repeating the same thing over and over and over and over until they listen." And I think that's the challenge is like, how many times are we going to have this conversation? And then you're going to tell me, well, I don't remember talking about that. I'm like, it's literally typed up in a contract that we made together.
Uh-huh.
Well, it just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
The Groundhog Day
yeah.
aspect of parenthood.
And teaching her kids to take that responsibility too.
Well, and maintaining our composure and our sense of peace and calm while we have to do that, right? And like how much of life in general, like I'm jumping over a little bit, but there's a boredom aspect to it and frustration from like boredom where we're in this space in life where we have enough expertise in what we do and children that we're raising that we end up saying and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again in all aspects of our lives and trying to maintain the same consistency, even sometimes excitement and enthusiasm to just get through the thing when I have said the same thing to my clients 10,000 times. And I have said the same thing to my daughter 10,000 times. And oh, here's the laundry I get to wash again. I just washed these sheets last week and I get to wash them again. And it's just the over and over and over and over. And like how we stay vibrant and connected and
regulated.
yeah, through all of the monotony that is midlife, you know?
The emotion regulation piece of it is really critical for me because I'm at a point in my life where that has become an issue again. You know, like when I was a young teen, emotion regulation was a big issue for me. And then I learned all the things and it got to be great and it was easy and effortless. And now, whether it's the load that we're carrying because we are carrying all the things, whether it is all of the changing hormones, whether it is the complexity of life at midlife or whatever.
And then throw in all the politics
Regulation.
and all the changes happening in the world too.
Right. Yes. Yes. All of that as well. My emotions, I mean, I don't feel quite like a teenager, but there is a similar analogy where it's like, whoa, you know, I'll just have these huge, big bursts of feelings. And it's shocking that that's happening to me at this age, at 45 years old. And so having to regulate and then the regulate by bringing that to a, you know, more moderate and manageable level, but also what you were saying, bringing up, right? Feeling vibrant and feeling connected and not just completely shutting it off. And so the art of living in this balanced place when a decade ago, that was great and easy. That's where I was thriving in that place and it was effortless, it felt like. And now, you know, I'm not the teenager that doesn't have the tools anymore. I'm also not that person that was 10 years ago where everything was effortless because I was not carrying the load that I'm carrying. The world didn't look the way that it did. And my hormones certainly did not look like they do today. And so there's so much responsibility to find that place because when we are with our clients, when we were with our kids, you know, back to the concept of trust, this is the place where I will continue to connect with those people that are so important to me and prove over and over and over again that I am trustworthy, right? That I am able to manage whatever it is that's happening inside of me and provide a safe environment for them to do whatever they're doing, whoever that person is. But that's a tall order for us. Like it's a lot. And there's a lot of people that will just shove it down, right? Like, okay, that's too loud. I know that. I can't be there. And so I'm going to turn it off. And I think that's what clinically we see so much of in terms of feeling disconnected from the vibrancy that you were referencing and the connection to the things that matter most to us. The reason that it feels really hard for those of us that are working really, you know, committedly, devotedly to that sweet spot is because it is really hard. It's really, really hard to aim for that and to continually carry the load and the burden that we carry and show up in the best way that we can without turning off.
It's funny because my mom had me when she was 33. I was the first. You know, she had us later, especially for right the 70s and 80s. So she had me at 33, and there's a 33-year age gap between me and my daughter, which I find so fascinating. It's like the exact same because that was my big challenge as a teenager. Was I was dealing with all my hormones, and my mom was dealing with perimenopause and menopause. Right? It's like the two puberties happening at the same time on such different levels. And so I think about that a lot, like the similarities, right? From not expecting to be a mom and have kids to then having this like same kind of setup, you know, that me and my mom had. And it's just, it's really, it's like the two sets of hormone fluctuations are no joke.
Puberty and reverse puberty. That's one benefit of being an even older mom. You know, I was 40. I was closer to 41 than 40 when I had Zephyr, and it's so I'm going to be done with it. But you know, I'm also on a medication to force it because of all of my stuff too. And I'm like, I feel better. In most ways, like I feel better. Like, and so I'm like, okay, menopause maybe is not a bad thing. So maybe there's good things on the other end for you guys. It's coming,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I have been I have been obsessed with these charts on life satisfaction as of late.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll pull it up and just stare at it where, did we
Uh,
talk about this?
I don't know. I had a psychiatrist tell me about this a long time ago, and it was like, yeah, so like where it's like the U curve where like we're
Mhm.
at like in
We
the
are
lowest
we have
of
hit
life.
bottom. We're staying in the bottom for a little bit, but then it like spikes,
Yeah.
and I am certain that that part of that is the post hormone shift for women.
Mhm.
I don't know about men, but I know for sure that's playing a role for women. And once that stops and everything neutralizes and balances and there's some level of predictability,
Yeah.
we can start to thrive once again.
Yeah.
So I look at that frequently and or think about it and am like, okay, all right. I've got about another, according to the chart, I've got another 5-ish years before things start to shift in a really positive direction.
5 years feels so long sometimes though.
Does, but I feel like it's been long.
Um,
You guys think that I've been thinking a lot about this lately and reading more about it with women in perimenopause being diagnosed with ADHD. I
Mm.
was thinking about this, it's not that it's a late diagnosis, or sorry, it's not that it's a late onset, right? Women just don't develop ADHD in perimenopause, but you had all of these hormones and fluctuating and cyclical hormones that were helping a lot to manage the symptoms in a way. And then when those hormones go away or decrease, is that where some of those more ADHD type symptoms are coming up? And it's not that it was
no, I
on
don't think that
a late
that's
diagnosis.
I don't think that it's new symptoms coming up or more symptoms coming up. I think that it's two things. In my personal experience, as someone who is a late diagnosis, it was made clear that I always had this
Mhm.
and that it was that I had good coping mechanisms. So I had two things. I'm a smart person, and was in like all the gifted and talented stuff. And I didn't have to know how to study. I didn't have to pay attention because it went in and it went in well enough that like I understood and I did fine. And so it wasn't until like I freaked out because I was in college and I had no idea how to study. And like so I quit school and joined the military. There were signs all along. The hormones, I mean, maybe play a role. Like I don't want to downplay that, but I think that by the time we get to this point where we're in midlife and in perimenopause, we have all the things we just talked about. We've gotten to the place in our professional life that we've got a lot of people depending on us. We've got to be able to hold it together with having consistency, saying the same things again and again and again. And if we have kids too, then we have that thrown in there that we've just got so many things demanding stuff from us that it just overflows too much and our coping mechanisms fail. And so I think that regardless of what was happening with my hormones, it would still be a problem because I will tell you that the 100% truth, my labs did not suggest perimenopause. My labs did not suggest there were any issues with my hormones. I was consistent, regular with like my cycle, all of the things. Everything was fine and not actually suggestive of perimenopause. And the things that I thought were perimenopause, I think were actually just worsening endometriosis. So I don't know, based on lab testing, where my hormones ever were, but I reached a threshold where I could not cope anymore because it was too much. And so it just overflowed. I also think that there is a point that we reach, and maybe this is related to hormones, but it also could just be related to life experience and having a lot more understanding of what matters and what doesn't, that all of our F's go away. Like mine stopped on December 19th last year. My F's were gone, right? And so I also stopped feeling like I shouldn't have to cope so much. I shouldn't have to take on so much extra effort to just do this one thing that I've given so many F's for so many years that I'm just like, nope, I'm done. Why this doesn't have to be so hard. Like I can't keep doing this. So I think it's both overflow and collapse happening at the same time that is a gift of just time, wisdom. And yes, maybe we throw in a little bit of like some hormone juiciness, but I just don't think that's the case for everybody.
I agree with you. I agree. I think it's too complex and there's there's too many layers of it. And the physiological side is without question an aspect for me. Caring as much as I'm carrying, there just comes a point at which physiology intersects with the complexity of my life, and my body physiologically cannot stand up to what it has been able to do up until that last straw, and now I just can't. And we know that there is a relationship between adrenal health and attention, whether it's ADHD or not. There is an association there, and of course the adrenals are highly implicated in stress. So the more stress we have, and obviously this midlife period of time is, as evidenced by that chart, the most stressful time in our lives. And just to close out that conversation, maybe we can add it to the notes. The picture of that graph is, it shows that quality of life really starts to hit a rock bottom starting around 35. It starts to plummet, and then it starts to creep back up around 55 significantly. And so this period, this midlife period of time, is really hard in that people report the lowest levels of satisfaction. And so if we're reporting low satisfaction, it means that we are feeling a tremendous load, which physiologically is going to translate to less resources. And it also happens to coincide with a lessening of sex hormone resources, which puts extra weight and pressure on the adrenals to take over. So now the adrenals have to do more of that heavy lifting. So I know that's a part of my picture. I've actually been exploring it because I've been having a lot of low back pain and, some of these other symptoms that in naturopathic medicine we correlate with low adrenal function, or at least fatigue. So for my personal picture, I know that's part of it, and it's everything that you said as well, Jen. It's all of those things, and they inform one another.
Can we also just throw in the patriarchy and the fact that girls have always been told to sit still, behave, be quiet, and don't share your feelings and take care of everybody else's feelings? I was reading Codependent No More, and I was just like, can we talk at some point about the fact that codependency is just the water we swim in? It's just what's expected of women, that we're expected to take care of and be responsible for everybody else's feelings, and even to the detriment of feeling our own feelings. So maybe we just realize, hey, I don't have to do this. What we expect of little girls and what we expect of young women, what we expect of women of any age, and that maybe as we're having all of this stuff, we just as we're throwing it all up in the air and saying nope, nope, and we're just noping out of all of the things, like that's part of it too. The expectations that are put on us and all of the ways that we miss it in little girls because it shows up a little bit differently, and because of the way that we treat little girls, and the fact that so many little girls, ADHD is misdiagnosed as anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if it's all like misdiagnosed during this time also. I don't know. I just think with
For some people, probably. Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's like, it's one of those things that ADHD, as you said, Aliza, it's like having its women with ADHD is having its moment, and it's like everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. It's about women in perimenopause with ADHD, and everybody's getting diagnosed and put on medications. And I think that there are probably some people that is incorrect and misdiagnosis and an inappropriate use of medication. Because yes, I think that there's such an explosion of information about what it can look like. But
and
that's
right. There's so much happening. How do you weed out like what's due to what?
right, because some of those things can also be caused by the fluctuations in hormones and like the chaos. Because, like our hormones at this point in time, just like in puberty, they're not stable. It is literally like a roller coaster that like, it's just sometimes it's high and then it drops and it's high and then it drops, and it's all over the place and just like unreliable and inconsistent and chaotic, which of course is going to be jerking your emotions and everything around, because you've got your calming progesterone and you're like, and you're more like uplifting and like driving estrogen, and they're not like in a good flow. I have two books that I've gotten stuck on. They're both long reads. They both have some interesting not for everybody components of them, but one is All Fours by Miranda July. One of my favorite humans recommended it to me, and she gave me her copy. She's like, I think you might like this if you're okay with things that are like a little bit risque in a couple of places. You might be like, this is a really good book. And then Wellness by, who's the guy who wrote Wellness? Nathan something, I think. I'll have to look it up. But both of them are, I related and connected to so much with like all of the things that come up in midlife and all of the things that we confront. And I know we got way off of the original conversation of parenting, but I feel like this does tie back because it's all about how do we parent when we are feeling our own chaos and like we need somebody to guide us and parent us through the next stage, but we can't because we're also taking care of our parents who are aging and having their own stuff, and we're responsible on both ends. But it's the chaos of all of the things that we're responsible for, the load, all of that. It's the closing of doors and the recognition, I think, that doors have closed and that like our life is going in one direction and we don't have as many opportunities available to us, and like the reckoning and the grief that comes too with just like the visions of ourselves that we thought were accessible to us that no longer feel accessible to us. And all of those things with also being like, and how do I raise a human that I would like to be with and that is going to be able to be out in their world on their own and that will want to come home to me when they need help, but that I can also lean on for help when I'm 80 and having a hard time managing all of the things with my trust and my decisions and just even, figuring out if it's safe to answer this phone call. Aliza, though, to bring it back to your original thing, you are doing a really good job. You're doing a really good job with a hard job. And the thing is, like, almost anything in life, it's trial and error. You just have to make a decision and you have to do something and be consistent with it. And if it doesn't work out, be honest about it, because that's part of the trust is honesty, and say, I was trying this approach. It's not working. We need to try a different approach. Here's what we're going to do. And then we're consistent with that. I am a big, 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 big believer of constantly reevaluating what we do, not in like a necessarily a whiplash place, but like a let's see what has happened if we've got enough patterns that are starting to develop. Is this still working? Is this still going the direction we want it to be going? And if not, it's okay to stop, shift course, or completely stop altogether.
It's hard and it's going to stay hard. And I think just knowing that is very validating, right? Remembering it, I'm not doing something wrong. It just is hard. And if I keep showing up with the intention to love and develop this trust and provide a safe environment for her, that's it. That is the job. I think if it feels easy, something's probably amiss. It's easy for too long. We'll say that because there are definitely periods where it's like, okay, yeah, I see the fruits of my labor, and then there's more labor to be had soon after.
All right, the author of Wellness is Nathan Hill, and I'm going to convince you guys to read these books someday so we can talk about them. Both of them got stuck in my head and are still stuck in my head. And some concepts that are brought up in them, I feel like are so helpful for kind of understanding some things about midlife, and not necessarily from an answer perspective, but just where am I and where do I want to be? And like within this particular framework. Any final thoughts today on parenting and all of parenting within the chaos of all of the stuff with puberty and reverse puberty and expectations and ADHD and all of the things that we chatted about today?
Appreciate you guys.
Yes.
We got this. We'll get through it. That's the thing I always remember is that we're not the first people to go through this. We're going through it in a place where we have probably more information than is helpful. And I think that also creates a lot of chaos. But like millions of women have been through this before, and we will also get through this. And we're going to help each other along the way.
And it's hard. It's hard. You're doing awesome. And it's hard on repeat.
Yep. All right, ladies. We'll
Love
end
you
today. Love you guys.
If our messy is your kind of messy, we'd love for you to rate, review, and follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
We'd also love to know what's on your mind. If you were to join us, what would we be talking about? email us at messymidlifepodcast@gmail.com or message us on Instagram or TikTok.